warm welcome to another edition of To The Point. India becomes the 61st nation to ratify and formalize the Paris Climate Change Agreement. What does this climate deal mean for India? And from here on, how does India evolve itself on the climate change agenda? Joining me now is the Union Minister for Forest and Environment, Anil Dave, on To The Point. Welcome, sir. Let me begin by asking you that now that India has submitted its instrument of ratification to the UN, basically, how does it really give India the leverage at the global forums?
In fact, we have ratified in given time. But before ratification, we had a wide range of consultation within the country to stakeholders. And at the same time, we thought that whether whatever our views are there, that will be accommodated while execution, which we will plan days to come. So when we find that everything is okay for us, then Prime Minister announced for the ratification. So I think this is a win-win position for India. And India has done at a very right time and in a very right way. I think at the global level, credibility of the country will go high by doing this thing.
As earlier we have seen that India has always had a very compulsive, contrarian kind of a position on these international forums. So does this deal help India to shun that kind of an image of a contrarian, of a compulsive contrarian image? Does this deal really help India that way?
No, for last 2 years you must be seeing that now the way we are playing, the way we are pushing forward our issues, the way we are acting at the international level, it is not that which was there. Of course, all the policies we continue being a continued process in the government, but there is a paradigm shift into that, and that shift is from follow to become a leader.
September, when the G20 summit was happening, we saw US and China also ratify the Paris Agreement. But at that time, India very explicitly said that they are not in a position to ratify the deal. So just in about 1 month's time, what actually changed the whole position?
I don't think at any level PMO has said that thing. Pradhan Mantri's level, nothing was said like that. There may be a view from the different corners, but the opinion of the highest authority was not there. And the cards were closed. Negotiations, consultations, and stakeholders' opinions gathering was going on. So
do you think that was the reason why this kind of an opinion was evolving? Because very explicitly they said that India will not be in a position to ratify the deal by the end of December 2016.
I
but
think
then in
those
1 month's time,
that whosoever did that he is the right man to ask the same question, and then only they can reply. But according to me, everything is planned well in advance. They knew what to do, when to do, after a month or two.
So
and
basically,
it has happened like that.
But there were no domestic pressures or any kind of legal impediments which those people were talking about?
No. There was no pressure either from inside the country or outside the country at world level. And nowadays, the type of leadership India is having, that does not believe in pressurizing anyone. At the same time, they don't like to come under pressure because it's a superpower, again going to be a superpower. So we make sure that no one pressurizes, and if they pressurize, then we should not take the decision into their pressure. We take our decision looking to 130 crores people, their interest, India's interest first. And we decide the place, the time, the way, everything, decision is looking to the sovereign of this country.
Very interestingly, we saw a Gandhi seal on that instrument of ratification. Does that mean that now India is going to urge the global community to follow the Gandhian ways of maybe tackling climate change?
Gandhian way of dealing with the climate change is the probably only way. When I say Gandhian way, it means that is the India's way, the way Indian lives. That's why each and every Indian carbon footprint is very, very less. And Gandhi has shown the world that this is the way of life by which you can have a minimum carbon footprints with the maximum carbon footprints by living an individual society or individual person. You can have a discussions on climate change, on carbon emission. We can go along months together discussing the issues and its technicalities and its finance and everything, but there will be no change in the area of the climate change. That will only happen.
But how do you convince the developed world where their lifestyle is so extravagant that they end up with a huge carbon footprint? Do you think that they will give you concessions when you sit across the table and negotiate on these things? Or maybe
No, we just want to show the mirror. We will just put Gandhi in front of them. We will just put the right way of living in front of them. And then the society which is there across the world, they are also wise people. They also know what to do and how we should do it. So I am very sure and very confident that Narendra Modi ji will be able to tell the world that okay, this is the way and let us walk on that, and within 4-5 years or a 10 year, globe will have a lesser temperature loss in the field of temperature and all other ways by which we measure the carbon emission. That everything will happen only by the way of living the way one should live. Otherwise, it is very difficult.
Bringing you back again on the Paris Agreement, basically this has been seen as one of the very sort of landmark sort of deals which have been hammered out between the various nations, and now that India has ratified it, we saw President Obama and Prime Minister Narendra Modi working very closely to hammer out this deal. Many analysts say that probably this deal is a big part of President Barack Obama's legacy. Many say that it's Modi ji's parting gift to Obama. Would you also agree on what the analysts are saying?
No, basically whenever something good happens in the world, it is the understanding of two people or more, or a group, or a society. When they have an equal level of understanding for the wide range of issues, problems of the world, then certainly they will be able to find out the solutions. So it is not the individual ones, it is basically we did it. So we includes very many people of the same level, same background, same understanding of the world problem, and trying to take the world out of those.
So whom do you give credit? To Obama, to Modi ji, or to your team, the entire team which has helped you ratify the deal?
Of course, when I say this thing, I use the word we, and particularly 2P, one Prime Minister and one President. They played so nicely that now world is winning the battle.
Okay. In June, what happened? We saw that the nuclear, the NSG membership was linked with the ratification of the Paris deal. A lot of people were talking about it. And then India seemed to have walked away from it. What was the real position? Was India under some kind of a pressure at that time?
I think these two issues are altogether different. There is no connection between these two.
But why were the people linking the NSG membership and the Paris ratification?
You know, coffee shops are always for this. You can sit there and you can discuss which is not there exists.
So it's just a coffee table conversation, you're saying?
In a coffee shop conversation.
Okay.
So they always emerge some issues like these. What to do? There is no issue for last 1 week. So they will take out some issue which is not there. The cat which is not there, the black cat is not there in the room. But they will make some opinion, no, I had a sound, so it must be there. So it is something what like that. But it was altogether different. Paris Agreement was different, and the membership issue was different, and they are dealt with different altitudes and different ways.
Okay. Now that India gets a seat at the 55 by 55 conference, where 55 countries along with 55% emission ratify the agreement, and now you have the climate change summit coming up in Morocco next month. what do you think is the first big challenge which India will have to face?
I think the big challenge in front of the world is this, that the Paris Agreement, now we will have to find out the modus operandi, how we will execute this. When we will go back to our countries, how we will implement the entire Paris Agreements in the society for each and every one, and to find out the right way, right planning, right execution system. That is a big deal, and but I am very sure that in Morocco and onwards we will be able to do this.
But India's INDC pledge, which has been estimated at a cost of about $2.3 trillion, do you think that just ratification of the deal is enough at this point of time? I mean, of course, we're beating the drums over ratification. It is a big step forward, but is it enough? Because why I'm asking you this question is that because you have the summit coming up very close on the heels.
For every big goal, one should care for one step only. If we look to the total amount, that will look very huge, very so big that the question will arise in ourselves whether we are going to have that or not. If someone wants to climb on the Everest, one should always think of his or her next step.
No,
if it is okay, tomorrow you will be at the top of the mountain.
No, why I asked you was that because signing the deal is of course easy, but finding out the mechanism, putting in a certain framework, that is much more difficult. And when you go on the international negotiating table, is it not going to be very difficult?
Reaching on the Paris Agreement itself was not that easy.
Okay.
Now the ratification process, again it was difficult one, but one after another we have met the goals.
If I were to ask you one or two difficulties in the ratification process, number one and number two, what would you say?
Number one is consultation with the stakeholders.
Okay.
Within the country.
Okay.
And second, the interest of the country, particularly during the implementation of the goals and targets. So, and to make sure that they are properly safeguarded. So, these types of problems are always there. But looking at the problem at one glance with total problems and saying this thing, it is difficult, we will not be able to do it, then it won't happen.
Would also like to understand from you that after this deal is ratified, does it also transform into some kind of legal transformation here within India? I mean, do we see a change in laws or some kind of a transformation within the legal framework as well?
That we have checked. To implement the Paris Agreement, we need not have to make any substantial change in the Indian constitution, Indian laws and Indian given circumstances. Okay. In the given framework, we are able to execute that, we will be able to do it.
Okay. And environment experts have always pointed out that Paris deal has been a weak deal, it has been a weak framework. Now that India has ratified it, do you think that the issue of equity, which is such a big issue, can you bring back the issue of equity on the climate change agenda next month? And how will you do it?
It was weak, it was powerful, enough interest was not safeguarded. These types of discussions will always there. Whenever you do something, something is going to happen. If car is standing in the...
But you always weigh the pros and cons, no?
That will be always there. Car which is in showroom is not going to have a scratch. A scratch will only happen when it is moving on the roads.
Because environment experts, they always will see it from the prism of how much you have given and how much you have gained.
That's true. This is a democracy. Everyone has a right to say anything. Anyone can put a question mark on the Indian military. One chief minister, gentleman, he was asking something, these, that. So without looking this thing, that what is the interest of the country, just for the sake of silly, small interest of political gain, if we will, then this is democracy. Everyone has a right to say and a right to speak. So similarly, every environmentalist who feels that I want to comment on this, he has the right to speak.
If I were to ask you, Mr. Dave, there are a whole lot of issues. It's just not about carbon emissions. Climate change is just not about that. It is about technology transfer. It's about finance. There are a whole lot of issues, adaptation, and how much of loss and damage India will suffer in that process. You are already in the process of consulting various people on this, that what India has to really offer within its framework next month. What are the broad contours of what you have thought in mind as of now?
It is difficult at present to say, to open all the cards which we are going to have.
No, but without opening the cards, if you can just elaborate it a little, because see, the country will be interested in knowing, because India has just ratified such a big deal, and
Country trust on us. They have elected us. And this is the elected government in the democracy. They know that what we are going to do is will always be in the interest of the country. But one thing is sure, during negotiations, we will make sure that the developing countries and those countries which are small oasis countries, they must not suffer. Their interests should be properly guarded by the given laws. It should be enough stringent and make sure that the technology transfer, and particularly day by day research, will bring better and better technology in front of the world, so that technology should be easily available and it should not be bargained or forcefully sold at the higher level, higher cost. At the same time, finance is a very important issue. $100 million funds is yet
was
to
pledged
be,
by 2020.
2020. That is there in the pipeline. Similarly,
How much of the road have we really crossed in terms of finance? Because if $100 billion were pledged to the developing nations by 2020, it's already 2016. If I were to ask specifically for India,
no, exactly the balance there, 10% is the promise and net amount in the balance is 2.
okay, so which means that we have a long distance to travel.
Of course, the entire distance will have to be traveled by the developed countries.
Okay, but the implementation of INDC still is a very big issue, because we are still one of the major emitters, and we are also talking about shifting of energy curves from coal-based energy to the renewable and the non-fossil fuels. Is that not a very big challenge at the moment, when, of course, the energy policy is also not very clear? We are still in the process of doing it. Is it the right time to shift your energy curve?
Before 2030, we have promised that 40% of our energy we will bring it from the solar.
Right.
Therefore, the Honorable Prime Minister had a solar alliance idea in Paris, and now we have more than 160 countries at the floor. So, solar is the future. Certainly, more research and development activities we are expecting from the different corners of the world in the area of solar energy. And I am very sure that before 2030, we will be able to meet the target.
But this idea only makes sense that if India can persuade the developed nations like America and European Union to cut down their carbon emissions. If you're not able to prevail on them, the idea doesn't make sense.
We are at present talking about India itself.
Right.
Then we will come out from this circle, then the developing countries. If we will further enlarge that one, then the developed countries. I think in the world of climate change, everyone knows his or her responsibility. Now the matter is this, when they will execute it.
But the entire debate is about the fact that the developed nations don't understand and recognize their responsibility. I mean, they do talk about it, it's all on paper, but when it comes to practical actions, then
I don't think it is like that. They too understand the things, seriousness of the issues, and they too want to solve the problems.
Okay.
Because when I talk the world use terrorism, it is not the world which affects the India only. It is the whole globe.
Right.
Similarly, when I talk about climate change, global warming, it is not India, Himalaya or Hindu Kush only which is going to suffer. It will be every corner of the world. So I think they understand the subject, but it takes some time. And when I say world use some time, it means few years to mold one own self for the final solution. So probably the world is taking that time, and it will take another 4-5 years. But in a very short future, the globe and the citizen of the globe, to whom we call as a one family, they will come in line, they will act accordingly, and they will act in the right direction for the climate change.
But India had also promised an additional carbon sink of about 3 billion tons through forest and tree cover, that is by 2030. Don't you think that is a very ambitious target when currently India just has about 24% of the forest cover, and you will also have developmental activities happening at the same time, cutting down trees, felling buildings. So how will it really happen? Is it not a very ambitious target?
No, it is not. It is a well calculated target.
Okay.
And of course, our per capita footprints is very, very less in the world.
Right.
Probably the lowest.
As compared to the developed nations, of course.
Lowest. But being as a responsible citizen, we too want to reduce our carbon footprints. And whatever targets we have decided, either in the INDC or individually, we are not only achieving those targets in given time, but sometimes we are little bit far ahead than that. The target which we were supposed to achieve in 2015, we have achieved in 2014. Similarly, 2020 targets, they probably may be achieved a year or so before, because we are serious to all these things. Therefore, in each and every department of the government and state governments, they are also thinking and working in the same direction.
But when you are ensuring that you stick to these targets, how would you ensure that the forest cover, the area of the forest cover also expands? How will you do that?
That is the secret. That is the way this government functions.
So you don't want to...
No, we will expand that forest cover, the green cover. Instead of saying a forest cover, I would like to say green cover. Yeah. Because that will have a larger definition. So in days to come, tomorrow, in years to come, you will find that India has developed its green cover more than what it had 10 years before.
Also, the targets which India has set, by 2030, 70% of the infrastructure in India will talk about smart buildings, net zero buildings. They will become the buzzwords. But how will you ensure compliance when still the construction quality is abysmally poor? How will you ensure compliance at that point?
Entire Department of Urban Development is there. They are looking after that. And being a ex-chairman of the Housing Standing Committee, I know that India is going forward with the good builders, and bad builders will be out of the picture, because the days is gone when the bad builders were in the frame, promising to society good quality structure and not meeting them.
Entry of good builders and phasing out of bad builders. So are you hinting at the fact that there's going to be some kind of a green rating for the buildings based on incentives, based on penalties? Is it going to be something like that?
Urban development is looking into that subject. It is their subject, and they are coming out with the good laws. Okay. And those laws will help good builders and good consumer to get the good products.
Okay. From Rio to Paris, of course, climate change has now become a movement, and it's been a long journey. What are your expectations from next month's COP22 at Morocco?
That we will agree, the world will agree probably on some hard task. Okay. And we will find out a better solution for implementation of Paris Agreement. And I am very confident the wiseness of the entire leadership. When 10 days they will go in a row for discussing the whole issue, they will come out with another diamond which we had previously in Paris and Morocco again, for a rays of a hope from the Morocco will arise for the world that yes, we are going in the right direction for the climate change.
So India will be in a position to offer a lot of solutions to this entire problem of climate change.
Of course. As in the beginning you were saying that there is a shift in the way we are acting in the world. Similarly, that shift is going to put us in the right direction at the driving seat, and we will do it.
And you'll be the man in the hot seat.
It is the Prime Minister of the country who will do it, but of course we are there in his team also.
Wish you all the best, Mr. Dave. Thank you so much for coming on the program. So that's it on this episode of To The Point. See you next time with another personality. Goodbye and thanks for watching.